Well, thank God. At least we got one weekend where we're not starting with another fucking Orwell quote. Nope, not this week, kids. Decided I was going to switch it up a little bit. Now, Orwell, as we know, is essentially a creature of the left. Let's not get into revisionist history. The man was an avowed socialist and saw the problems with socialism. But speaking of creatures from the left, we're going to kick it off with our buddy Glenn Greenwald this week. Now, you guys know Glenn Greenwald. He's one of those rare unicorns known as a legitimate journalist. He's the guy that broke the story about Edward Snowden. He's the guy that broke the story about the national security / surveillance state continuing and being expanded under the power of the mulatto messiah, Barack Obama, after I spent 8 years raging against the same thing when it was under the Bush junta. This is what Glenn Greenwald had to say, and I want you to pay close attention to the date on this tweet. This is October the 23rd of 2020. This is before the much contested election, and this is what Glenn Greenwald had to say about it. If Biden wins, that's going to be the power structure. A Democratic Party fully united with neocons, Bush Cheney operatives, CIA, FBI, NSA, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, he left out big tech specifically, presenting itself as the only protection against fascism, and much of the left will continue marching behind it. Now, how would you possibly think, if you're a rational human being, that with a Biden administration, they would team up with those polar opposites like Bush Cheney operatives and the CIA, FBI, NSA? I mean, that's almost like proposing that there would be a deep state, and they would present themselves as their only protection against fascism, which makes it even more ironic that they're the guys that just a couple of days ago gave us this. Yeah, somebody at the administration had to look at that and think that these optics were going to be a good fucking idea for somebody slagging on the dangers of fascism. Wow. Getting back to the Greenwald quote, they are going to unite with the neocons. They are going to present themselves as the only protection against fascism. And while they're protecting against fascism, they're going to be protecting us against those age-old enemies. They're certainly not going to be using propaganda as a tool. Now, we've talked about that. What have you always heard me say about propaganda is that a big part of it is framing. Well, this week, it became about the size of the frame. You see, they gave us this. This is illustrative of the massive counterattack of the powerful, brave Ukrainian army against the evil intrusions of Vladimir Putin and those big bad Russians. First of all, let's take it back a couple of notches. If the left could have managed this much hatred against the Russians during the Reagan era, I think we probably could have shaved 10, 15, maybe 20 years off the Cold War. But let's forget about that for now. Let's take it back to the modern day. This is the massive counterattack. But again, it's about the size of the frame, because we see all these troop movements and we see everything pushing back against the Russians, and then we back it out a little and realize that this massive counterattack is taking place in a window about this fucking big. Yeah, a window about that fucking big in a country that's actually, well, this fucking big. And suddenly we have a bit of perspective, don't we? Once again, it's all about propaganda, and nobody does propaganda better than these folks. That's right. Keep in mind, this guy is going to warn us about fascism while supporting this lady in New Zealand, telling you that she's going to be the only source of truth. This guy jumped on stage and tried to stab a Republican gubernatorial candidate in the New York governor's race and was released 2 hours later on his own recognizance. But this guy is going to tell us that the right wing are dangerous fascists. These people burned cities down for 2 fucking years while the people cheered it on. These people here showed up at every demonstration to thunk people, to beat up elderly war veterans for the atrocity of wearing a MAGA hat. But this guy is going to remind us how we're all violent fascists on the right. These guys, right, we're flying the Black Lives Matter banner. Wow, I don't see a single black face among them, but I digress. Continued to burn down those cities for 2 years while being cheered on by the left. This was the scene in Portland when those demonstrators, you know, those peaceful protesters, opened up on law enforcement officers with fireworks and incendiary devices. This was the scene outside of a Texas establishment to protect a drag queen fashion show for kids. And yet these guys, oh wait, I'm sorry, it just looked so much like this that it was easy to get them confused. Yeah, these guys continue to assure us that it is the right wing, those violent extremists that are an existential threat to democracy, leaving aside the fact for just a moment that we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, and much has been made over the wordplay to convince us that we live in a democracy. In a democracy, mob rule. Strict mob rule. 2 wolves and a sheep voting over what's for dinner. Now, of course, they're going to portray themselves as, you know, the side that's on the right of good and democracy and freedom. But we all know deep down what these people are about. And when they preach tolerance, let's remember the words of Archbishop Charles J. Chaput. Evil preaches tolerance until it is dominant, and then it tries to silence the good. Why, I can't think of a single example of that. Big tech censorship, arguing to have people deplatformed for opinions that they disagree with, or say revisionist history. Yeah, you knew we were going to sneak old George in here somewhere. Once again, the past was erased. The erasure was forgotten. The lie became the truth. That's right. The old phenomenon of the memory hole. I can think of people who would have killed to have this much power in their propaganda machine, 3 of whom are pictured right here. Yeah, that's Limpy Joe Goebbels, Leni Riefenstahl, and of course, the famous German with the funny mustache. In their graves, they are envious of the power that mass media has to convince the people. But the people aren't buying it. Their grip on the narrative is fading, and they are getting increasingly desperate. I can't imagine what may result from this. Maybe we get this as the reality that this is trying to simulate. Either way, might be time to knuckle up, boys and girls. I think they're getting a little out of their depth. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and nobody else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and once again, I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big fat dose of the truth cock. Boys and girls, once again, it is time for the Sunday sermon. I appreciate you guys being patient through the production efforts that we are our production difficulties that we are currently experiencing. I'm going to have to backdoor this a little bit because we are on a faulty computer. Once again, man, the show must go on. The perils of live entertainment, and away we go. God damn it. Oh, wow. It's funny, man, when the buttons just don't... We're going to make it work one way or the other, people. Everybody in for the drum roll. Had to go to a YouTube window, man. iTunes just decided it wasn't going to cooperate with me. It decided that if I wasn't going to be a dedicated part of the Cupertino congregation anymore, it just wasn't going to cooperate. And you know what? That's fine. We're going to still make it work. We're going to throw out the bumper music, and that's going to be that. We do what we got to do, boys and girls. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, man, we're going to do a quick roll call here, see who's on board. This is only our second week back from a long hiatus. A lot of personal stuff that we had to take care of, but I went back for my 2-week checkup this week, and that was kind of cool. Seemed pretty fucking promising. The doctor took a look at everything. I am healing up remarkably well. My beloved Miss Charlie is also healing up remarkably well from her surgical procedures involving the big C that has been trying its best to undermine the both of us for the past little bit. So once again, thanks for everybody's outpouring of support. Appreciate everybody being on board. Let's do a quick roll call, man. Let's see who's on board. Ah, yes. My beloved Oksana. Hello, Denise. Good to see you, sweetheart. And, of course, Roman and Carrie are back from Romania. They are on board today from opiumtales.com. Brother Dennis. Hello, fellow extremists and deplorables. OG Reverend Ranger Dennis Weimer on board. Emmy, the original Sinner Sister, who will be hosting that get-together, the potluck on the 17th of this month. I am doing my best to make it. Brother Neil Ross, my quote historian. There's Carrie. Who else we got? Oh, wow. We got some unexpected faces on here today. Stacy Bond dropping in. Good to see you, Stace. Brother James Pearson. Hello to my law enforcement and sphere brethren. Gaslighting us, narcissism, and most people fall for it. You know, at this point, I got to tell you, if you are only watching mainstream news, as I tweeted earlier this week, if you're only watching mainstream news, it might be cheaper at this point to sell your television and get an actual gaslight, because that's about what you got going on. Talk that talk, Rev. Brother Todd Fossey, been singing your praises on here, telling everybody to seek out that training with integrated defense strategies. Appreciate you being out there, brother. Thank you. Sister Nancy Nixon, I love you, girl. I love you. And you're right, man. You're right. We definitely do need to keep better touch. Brother Roman, admonishing, that's my college word. I got everybody that. Thoughts on Slaughter Beach? God damn it. Why are you hitting me with that now, man? I'm catching up the backlog of rabbit holes, and I'm trying to get all caught up here. Do the hippie shake, Rev? No, not going to happen. Appreciate you, Todd, but no, I'm not doing that dance. Maybe the Reverend Bart happy dance, the booty shaking uppercuts thing, but maybe not. Brother David jumping in. Good to see you, man. Appreciate your posts. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your vibe right now, man. I'm really proud of you being out there doing all the stuff that you're doing. So thank you for that. Wow, man. It has just been absolutely crazy. I don't even know where to begin. We're going to get into some stuff. We're still catching up the backlog of rabbit holes from the weeks that I was out. But now that we're here, there we go. Cool. Finally got this up and running again. Wow. Sorry, man. iTunes wasn't wanting to cooperate. Little production difficulty. We shift on the fly. We make it happen. It's just me and a computer, guys. I don't have a producer. I don't have a production department. I don't have, moderators. I don't have, call screeners. I don't have any of that shit. It's just me, but that's why you guys keep showing up, and I appreciate that very, very much. So thank you for that. Fade this on out a little bit here. All right, we're gonna have to kick it back up here in just a second. Go ahead and click on that window. We're gonna fade it out and get away from the bumper music right there, and we're gonna jump right on into this thing. Let me close that video window, and then we're gonna go back here to the iTunes window in the background, and that will be there when we decide to do the outro. Cool. Some of this stuff can't be predicted, guys. I just for the record, I got a new military laptop. You guys know my penchant for military laptops. When I'm on the road, it's the best thing going, and you can get them for a steal. These things are built like tanks. They are rugged as hell, waterproof, crush-proof, freeze-proof, heat-proof, shock-proof, everything but freaking bulletproof, and damn close to that. The one that I've been using for the past several years has sort of, I won't say given up the ghost, but the keyboard has seen better days. So I look at what it would cost to order a new keyboard for it, and then the cost to replace it with the waterproof ceiling and everything, and it wound up, being like $250. So I found a new one edition beyond the one that I was running for $125 on eBay. And I picked that up. The thing about the military laptops, you can find them cheap, but you're going to have to put in your own hard drive. They pull all the hard drives because who knows what classified information might be on there that didn't wind up down at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, whatever. So they pull the hard drive. So you can get these military laptops for a fucking steal. They are rugged as hell. You can drop in solid state hard, 1 terabyte solid state hard drive for about $150, maybe a shade under now, and you have got yourself a rugged piece of equipment that you're going to be able to beat the shit out of for years, and it's still going to be coming back. The long and the short of it, though, is unfortunately I am not using that laptop right now because, as you can see, we are in the command center level of the BART bunker. Level 2, level 3 is where all the fun toys are. But I'm back on this. Piece of ancient Cupertino congregation history, this old Mac Pro Tower, and we're having a few things. Propaganda. We got propaganda on schedule on the Sunday morning mainstream today. Straight change the narrative quick today. I know, right? It's as if, wow. I mean, it's almost as if they just changed the story on the fly and expect us all to follow along with it. Unfortunately, their fawning faithful can be counted on to grazer the fuck up and just whatever the narrative shifts. It's like, okay, well, and now we find out the folders are empty, and we immediately shift gears to, well, the folders are empty because he sold all the secrets to Putin. And here we are 6 years into this nonsense, not a single fucking indictment against this orange motherfucker. Not one, right? No convictions for collusion or obstruction or anything. 6 years. We've gotten 6 years of, we've got him now. The walls are closing in. Any day now. He's going to prison. And fuck, here we are again. I really don't know what to think of people who are still, and again, you've got those otherwise intelligent people who are watching this shit and legitimately going, no, I think it's good that they're taking their time, man. They got to build their case. Dude, it didn't take 6 years to build a case against Al fucking Capone, okay? So can we just knock this off? You fucking imbeciles. Could we just knock this off? Little sip of liquid enthusiasm. We'll get back going again here. Again, these guys are not sponsors, but it's a great product, so I'm going to bump them up. This is from Iron Infidel. This is their battle bottle. You got a nice little paracord handle because you can never have enough paracord, but it's got a pouch here for your wallet and a pouch here for your phone and a clip here for your keys. So instead of carrying around a dedicated gym bag when you're, busting out to the gym or whatever, you can just stick everything in that water bottle and it's one-stop shop and you can carry that shit around. It's a good product, I used it on the job site when I was out there in Prineville, and I continue to use it here from the servants, because it holds a lot of that liquid enthusiasm, and some days we need more than others, so there's that. But yeah, man, I appreciate all you guys showing up. As always, Tom, hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you. My brother is one of those imbeciles. I have family members myself, Neil, that are among the imbecile clique. I would that were not the case, but it is. Let me give a couple of sponsor shout-outs real quick. And then we will get into the meat of the program, the stuff that you guys continue to show up for. First of all, first and foremost, Roman and his lovely wife, Carrie, and Roxy and Allie and a bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Beautiful watercolor work from my bro Roman, and Opium Tales. And a lot of testosterone-driven commentary as well. My understanding is that they are back from Romania and that reluctantly Roman may be heading back out to the People's Republic of California. Brother, you have my sympathies, but I understand you got to do what you got to do in light of things that must be done. So, knock that shit out, and I wish you the best of luck. Also, to Casey and Dusty Tellison from Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Dude, check them out. They are back out on patrol with the Viking Longship, their great big smoker trailer. American Gun and Pawn, Thursdays, Start at 11 and will sell until they run out of product. Every week they bring more product. Every week they sell out quicker because it's that fucking good. They have smoked my holiday turkey every year since I've been in the Northwest. They have catered events. They are fucking just amazing people. Dusty has given me some wonderful gifts. And Casey, of course, now a published author, Freaks of a Feather. You guys want to check that out. Latop Press out of Spokane, Washington, and is in law school right now. So good luck with that. Good people, good friends, and flagship sponsors. Happy to have everybody on board. All right. So you guys know what is coming first, and I do not have the applause sound effect, but it is time for Ryan's Rabbit Hole. Brother Ryan Jenkins, who opened the door for me to start down the crane journey that you guys have witnessed for the last 2 years, and allowed me to build a trade that has changed and advanced my life in countless ways. And he is a brother in every sense of the word. One of the things that we bonded over is the fact that we are both repositories of useless information. We are murder to play a game of Trivial Pursuit against. We are hell to try to follow a conversation. If you're sitting there at a table, it's going to be like watching a tennis match back and forth, and like half of the references that we're going to make are going to be too obscure for the average grazer to comprehend, but that is the way we like it, and that is the way that we communicate. Now, every week we generally have a discussion. We haven't for the past couple of weeks, and that is my fault, Ryan. I'll give you a call as soon as I'm off the air today. With all the stuff that's been going on, every week we generally have a conversation and we bounce ideas off of each other for the following week of what we're going to do for the rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole has become a popular segment. It's basically a little poke into your bread oven, little thing that maybe you weren't aware of. Some days we go historical, sometimes we go philosophical, sometimes we go esoteric, some days we go conspiratorial, but it's always going to be something that the average person, if they have any concept of it at all, it's probably going to be pretty minimal. Now, obviously, my audience is going to have a little bit more, generally speaking, on board to refer to those references. But again, we are going on the assumption that it's something that you might have heard of only in passing, and we're going to send you down that rabbit hole. We had 4 weeks where I was off the air, and I'm clearing up the backlog, and the one that we're going to discuss today is the church committee. The church committee was put together in the 1970s by a senator from the state of Idaho, Frank Church. And the reason why, first of all, that this is relevant to the discussion today is because a lot of the stuff that we are getting into, whether it's the power of propaganda, whether it's revisionist history, whether it's courage of conviction in the face of government overreach, a lot can revert back to the findings of the church committee. What Frank Church and his committee was basically ordained to do was to find the mountain of wretched excesses. Now, keep in mind, in the 1970s, cable even was barely a thing, and only in specific markets. The general public got their news from one of 3 major television networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. The only other sources for that information were radio stations who were controlled by either the same corporate entities or the sponsors thereof that ran the 3 major networks. So it was, you've heard me say before, it doesn't have to turn into a war of people control as long as you are winning the war of information control. And at the time, it was very easy for the power structure, the military-industrial complex, the military-industrial congressional corporate complex, the military-industrial congressional corporate media complex to control the information and to control the narrative. Some people would refer to this big conglomeration under the conspiracy terms of deep state, which of course we know doesn't exist, and anyone who does is living under a little tinfoil hat, right? So, what the church committee set out to do, because in spite of their control of the narrative, in spite of, hey, I'm cool, man, glad you made it out, thank you. in spite of their control of the narrative, in spite of their control of the media, there was a massive outrage because during the 1960s, the overreaches by intelligence agencies were so fucking egregious that they could not be ignored. And you had the semblance of a counterculture press. Now, the counterculture press at the time was primarily left. The establishment that was in control was primarily Republican right, evangelical Christian, the Nixon guys, the war hawk right. Those were the guys that are in control. Those are still the people that are in control. It's just the vagaries of left and right get a little clouded when everybody's essentially a neocon and everybody is essentially supporting the deep state. But at the time, the counterculture press, primarily left, was exposing a lot of these things. One of the things that they exposed was COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program of the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover. Some of the things, hey, Tommy, good to see you. Welcome back yourself, my friend. Under J. Edgar Hoover and COINTELPRO, they did everything that they could to stop the rise of the counterculture, particularly egregious in the sense of the Black Power movement and a lot of the stuff that was going on in the black community at the time that basically said, we don't want your fucking handouts, but we don't want your bullshit either. Groups that were rising to power like the Black Panthers and things like that. COINTELPRO deliberately insinuated themselves into this, into those groups, and hung snitch jackets on people and created a lot of fucking chaos, and were responsible, as found by the church committee, for many, many deaths. They would hang a particular snitch jacket or set of planted evidence on someone, creating the impression that they were counter to the movement, and as is easy to incite among leftist movements, there would be a violent reprisal. Several prominent members of the Black Panthers were killed by their own because of the efforts of COINTELPRO. Another thing that the Church Committee unearthed was MK Ultra, basically Operation Artichoke, which of course the three phases, MK Ultra, MK Delta, and MK Naomi, were, and again, this is stuff that is generally blown off as tinfoil hat conspiracy nonsense. The only problem with that is it's declassified now. None of this is tinfoil hat anything. All of this now has been declassified and confirmed. You have heard me say for years, everything is tinfoil hat until it is declassified. Some of the things that they found out through the Church Committee were experiments where the CIA had dosed unsuspecting Johns and filmed from behind a two-way mirror at brothels in New Orleans what would happen if you dosed unsuspecting people with LSD. They fed radioactive isotopes to retarded children in state homes to see the progression of radiation poisoning. Yeah, I know some of you are thinking, what about Tuskegee? No, Tuskegee was not a part of that. Tuskegee was its own fucking entity. But they were finding out, and of course, you know, the one CIA employee. You guys need to watch a Netflix series called Wormwood if you haven't, about one particular CIA employee who was buried deep in the MK Ultra program that took a swan dive out of an 18th floor window. It was ruled a suicide. His family spent years, and the Church Committee helped to unearth some of the evidence that eventually cleared his name and was responsible for them being able to receive some compensation. But whatever you think, you've heard me say this before, I will entertain if you look at one specific incident and say, in this particular instance, I don't think that this particular government agency did this particular thing. We can have that discussion and I will entertain the argument. But if you ever come at me with, I don't believe that my government or any agency thereof is capable of such a thing, I will refer you to the findings of the Church Committee. That is going to be your search engine term. You're going to go to Google or whatever search engine that you are using. Of course, Google's algorithms are fucking manipulated. You and I both know it. But DuckDuckGo really isn't doing any better. Sorry, but there it is. I have yet to see I've yet to see a search engine, and maybe some of my tech buddies, including Roman, could help me out on that. I have yet to see a search engine that I absolutely trust. And no matter what search engine you're using, when you enter these terms, you're going to have to fish a little bit. You're going to have to read between the lines. You're going to have to look at subtext. You're going to have to reach beyond the framing and the propaganda, which is one of the hot points that we're going to be getting into here. And the way that they will try to color the narrative. Again, back during the days of the church committee, it was easy. ABC, CBS, NBC, and they were all bought and paid for by the military, corporate, industrial media complex. All of it was easy to control. Now, it's a little bit harder to control because things like the internet fucking exist. It's impossible. Why do you think there is such a push for censorship from big tech? Why do you think there is such a push for these big tech companies to deplatform people? Because they have lost control of the narrative. They miss the days where it was easy. You had 3 outlets and then some radio, and it was easy to keep your narrative being the only one that would prevail. Now it's become more difficult. You have to convince them that people are Nazis. You have to convince them that the opposition is evil. You have to convince them that even the things that are declassified and patently fucking obvious and right there in your face are tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. It's much more difficult. But again, I'm getting a little off topic here. I want you guys to dig deep. Look into the church committee. Senator Frank Church from the great state of Idaho, right next door, 15 minutes down the road. And the things that they found out. A lot of the stuff. And I want you to dig deep in this rabbit hole. Normally, I'm like, hey, man, just take it, go a little bit down the rabbit hole as much as you're comfortable with. I encourage you to really, really go deep on this one. Particularly if there are any lingering doubts in your mind as to some of the things that are understood to be tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that are not only real but declassified and admitted. Stuff like injections being able to induce heart attacks, injections being able to induce cancer in people, guns specifically to inject people with diseases that would wind up taking their life, untraceable poisons, ways that you could covertly murder someone in untraceable fashion. Not only are these things real, but they have been used, and the church committee got to the bottom of a lot of that, and they got to the bottom of a lot of that in spite of the fact that at the end of the proceedings there were still, and I am not exaggerating here, there were still tens of thousands of pages inside tens of thousands of topics that were entirely redacted. You guys are familiar with redaction, and if you weren't, you probably became a little familiar with redaction after the Mar-a-Lago raid, because they released the affidavit. And what does redaction look like? What redaction looks like is big black lines across entire sections of text with one innocuous word here and there just to say we didn't black everything out. Black line, black line, black line, pizza, black line, back line, yes, black line, king, black line, Chevrolet. Redaction, okay? Tens of thousands of pages among tens of thousands of entries that were examined by the church committee are still and remain to this day entirely redacted. And in spite of that, the shit that did get brought to light and did get declassified is so fucking disturbing that it should keep you up at night. So dig deep. Frank Church Committee on Intelligence Malfeasance, Church Committee on Intelligence, Church Committee on FBI, Church Committee on CIA. Go down that rabbit hole, look that shit up, and go deep, man, because the more you go down, the further you go down that rabbit hole, the further you're going to want to go, because even some of you guys in my audience will look at me because I am kind of bombastic and I am more than a little bit given to hyperbole and overstatement and things like that. This is, I'm not so callous that I'm not aware of these things. But when I bring stuff up, there are still some of you out there that might be like, oh, okay, Bart might be a little off the deep end. When you go down that church committee rabbit hole, you're going to see that, if anything, I'm underplaying it. Mike, thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate it. I am working like hell to get down there on the 17th. Again, check my page. I have posted the link for it. Original OG Center Sister Emmy is putting together a potluck on the 17th of September at a park in Tomball just outside of Houston. I am bending hell to see about getting down there myself. I cannot 100% guarantee that at that point, but that is in the pipeline. I want to get down there and see some of my Houston people. I would love to have you guys come out for that. And again, I have posted the link before on my personal page and my fan page. I will be posting it again today. Look into that, and if you can make it out, that would be fan-fucking-tastic. So, look it up after sermon. Right on. Stacy, if you can make it out, it would be fan-fucking-tastic, my friend. So, again, dovetailing off the church committee and redactions and excesses of the intelligence agencies, that brings us straight into this Mar-a-Lago debacle that we discussed a little bit last week. I didn't want to do a deep dive on it because, in all honesty, I was just back from some heavy-duty personal stuff, and I really didn't have the fucking energy. And if I did you guys a disservice by not going deeper into it last week, I apologize. The bottom line with what the Rev says about Mar-a-Lago, I'll tell you what the Rev says. The Rev says this: if they've got the goods on the man, and I've said this from day fucking one, when the Steele dossier was first released, and I took one look at it, and I was like, this work would be insulting to the intelligence of a 7-year-old, let alone a grown-ass adult with more than 3 brain cells to rub together. How the fuck would anybody believe this? Well, it's obvious, because party over principle, because orange man bad, because this, that, and the other thing. I do not deify Donald Trump. Once again, for the record, let me say the big trifecta of words that I have hung on Donald Trump's neck from day one, that in spite of his good calls, because I have to give credit where credit is due, he made some really good calls with regard to policy. He steered the economy in a positive way. He didn't get us into any new wars, and in fact got us out of some old ones, one of which dated back to the 1950s. He did some great things, and you have to give credit where credit is due. Having said that, I found him from day one to be a spray-tanned, clown-shoed, inarticulate buffoon. I wanted to snap off his thumbs with a cigar cutter to keep his ass off of Twitter. Shut your fucking mouth, you inarticulate prick. Just do the job we elected you to do, because when you just do that, you do a fine job of it. But I understand that with the modern electorate, optics is everything. You have people who are low intelligence and low information on both sides, and I mean borderline like idiocracy on both sides. I am not exempting so-called conservatives from this, not by any stretch of the imagination. I want to be abundantly clear on that. So to have a raucous reality show host in that capacity serves a particular interest for a particular demographic. In short, I get it, okay? I would rather it not have come to that, but this is where we are, okay? And when we are dealing with a demographic whose intelligence quotient is far lower than what I would like it to be for an American electorate, I am going to roll with the side that is actually doing something to make the country fucking work, okay? If the decision that I am left with is to side with college indoctrinated, lofty, theoretical, gender studies, historical oppression fuckbags that have done their time and gotten their piece of paper from the university that you and I are now paying for, and are far full of themselves, but cannot change their own tires, cannot change their own motor oil, cannot operate a hand crank can opener, and are totally at the mercy of their own limitations, or gravitate to people who, if you removed all government tomorrow, would be able to fucking take care of themselves. I am going to go with the guys with the calloused hands. Take a look at these. I'm going to go with the guys with the calloused hands 10 times out of 10, and I am not going to look back. And I may even find plenty of stuff that they dig objectionable, but at the end of the day, you've got to respect the natural fucking order. If you took most of these university pricks out of the university, you took most of these university pricks out of their cubicle jobs, out of their fucking make work projects as a diversity, equity, and inclusion, professor or diversity, equity, and inclusion officer in a major fucking corporation. You took them out and made them fucking live on their own. They're going to make it about as long as it's going to take for them to get a flat tire. They're going to make it about as long as it takes for them to actually have to open canned food that sits in their pantry, if indeed they do their own fucking shopping. These people are fucking useless. But that will not stop me from lamenting that this is the point at which we've arrived. In any case, dovetailing off of intelligence group overreaches. Now, I just discussed the church committee with you. I just discussed COINTELPRO. The modern left have gotten so detached from that, and their hatred for the orange man has gotten so deep. If you would have taken the average lefty in the 60s and put him and 5 of his friends in a room with no accountability, no witnesses, and an FBI agent, I would not give a bucket of warm piss for that FBI agent's future, because everybody knew that they were part of the power structure. The problem now has come because the same lefties now are the power structure. Let me give you an analogy that is absolutely going to piss some of you guys off, all right? Because I know some of you guys are pit bull owners, and I know some of you guys are pit bull advocates and pit bull apologists. I'm not a fan of pit bulls, okay? I'm not. Just not a fan. Let me tell you why, okay? Yes, I get it. Nanny dog. Yes, I get it. Your little Snoogum Woogums is just the most adorable dog on the planet. But I am driven by data. And the plural of anecdote is not data, okay? And what the data tells me is that in spite of being 6% of the dog population, and this is 6%, I'm talking about pit bulls and rots, by the way. Pit bulls and rots make up 6% of the canine population in the United States, yet they are responsible for in excess of 80% of fatal dog attacks. Again, I'm sure your little Snoogum Woogums is just the nicest little playful dog, I'm sure, okay? But in my estimation and my observation of the data, okay, they are murder machines. They cannot be trusted, particularly around children. Now, I'm not saying all this just to bash on pit bulls. I'm drawing an analogy for you here, so stay with me, especially you pit bull owners like, dude, fuck you, man. I hear you, all right? But stick with me on the analogy. Let's take the FBI as pit bulls, okay? Let's take the intelligence community as pit bulls, right? The CIA, the FBI, we're glad that they're there, right? At least the good ones, and the ones that we know, the ones that I know, the ones that I've personally trained with are wonderful, wonderful creatures. But back in the day, the political left thought of them as the savage murder machine pit bulls because they could see the evidence that is right there in front of them. Your opinion of a pit bull is largely going to be based on whether or not you own one. Are you tracking? Are you following? Are you seeing where I'm going with this? Your little Snoogum Woogums is an adorable pit bull. Let's ignore the fucking 6% being responsible for 87. It's the canine equivalent of 13 do 50, for those of you that get that reference, and I won't apologize for that one either. Now, the same people that would have said those are dangerous killer pit bulls back in the 1960s and the 1970s, guess what? They own the pit bulls now. They are in control. They are the ones who are feeding and caring for and being rewarded with the protection of these murder machines. Therefore, their little Snuggum-Woogums is the nicest dog, where just a few decades ago, they would not have trusted that dog around their families. They would not have trusted that dog around their friends, because they would have taken a look at the actual data and seen what that dog was capable of, and seen what a risk it was to have that dog close to their families and close to their friends. Are you tracking? You pit bull guys out there, the guys that rate Emmy, I see you, and I see you like gritting your teeth and wanting to punch me in the face. But you see where I'm going with it now. Yeah? Ryan, I know you're a pit bull guy too, but we've had this conversation, so you know where I'm going with this. I am not taking this opportunity to callously slag pit bulls as a breed. I am taking this to draw an analogy that you have to recognize that there is a dangerous element there. And you have to judge your actions based on your perception of that existential danger. Are you tracking? Do you follow me, Sparky? Okay. So if you see someone else's pit bull, you can't really guarantee that that's going to be a safe fucking dog. But when you own the pit bull, you're going to stick by your guns that that pit bull is just the best, little, most obedient, totally safe, non-threatening pit bull on the planet because you own it, right? That's where the left is now. That's where the left is now. The left saw the FBI as a potential murder machine, right? A potential existential danger to liberty, because they were not the ones in control. Do you remember what we started off with? You remember in the opening, what was the quote? Evil preaches tolerance until it is dominant, and then it tries to silence the good. Well, they preached tolerance. We have to put reins on the FBI. We have to allow these openly communist professors at our universities. We have to allow these openly communist, openly anti-American people to speak and to give them a public forum and a public platform. And you know what? If you know me at all, you know that I agree. When I say First Amendment absolutist, it's not First Amendment absolutist, except we do have to give these people a platform if we are intellectually honest about free and open debate. If we are intellectually honest and ideologically consistent about freedom of speech. If we profess that, we have to give these people a platform. If you don't believe in freedom of speech for people that you fucking detest, you don't believe in it at all. But again, we're back to this. They preached tolerance until they were dominant. And now, all of the shackles that they want to put on the FBI, all of the things that were exposed by the church committee, they want to bury that shit. If you want to talk about the FBI's excesses, they want to deplatform you. They want to shut you up. Why? Because they don't have any fucking arguments. Here's the one that they've been throwing at us through the duration of this thing. When conservatives are looking at the Mar-a-Lago rating going, this is an overreach by the FBI. And their thing is, what about back to blue, huh? What about back to blue? Conservatives have never been back to blue unconditionally. Never have they been back to blue unconditionally. They are the first to call out people who commit egregious overreaches with regard to intelligence or with regard to law enforcement. Example number 1, Waco, fucking Texas, 1993. Example number 2, Ruby Ridge, a year before that. And there were plenty of conservatives that called out the wretched excesses of the Bush junta and the surveillance state. We have never been back the blue regardless. We have never been back the blue unconditionally. However, We can say that for the left, that they have never met a law enforcement officer that they liked unless they are under control. It is a position that I have held, and I stand by this. The reason the left becomes instantly in favor of authoritarian law enforcement once they are in control is because their ideas are so weak and indefensible, and they, as leftists, as individuals, tend to be so weak and pusillanimous, that's my college word, I got like 3 of those, that they cannot enforce those indefensible ideas for themselves. They need the power of a state to back them up. They need the power of an FBI. They need the power of a CIA. They need the power of a military. Defund the police, they're very serious about, guys, but there's a reason for that. They're all about defunding local police departments, particularly sheriff's departments. Why particularly sheriff's departments? Because the sheriffs are the highest constitutional authority in any given region, in any given county, in any given place. The sheriffs are the highest constitutional authority. So yes, they do want to defund the police. They want to defund the metropolitan police departments. They want to defund the sheriff's departments. They want to take away all that money. Why? Because it needs to be concentrated on the what level? On the federal level. When has the left had a kind word to say about the FBI? Even just a couple of years ago, okay? This is how quickly they will flip it on you in Orwellian terms. Do you remember towards the middle to late part of 2020 when Antifa maggots had been firebombing a federal courthouse in Portland? Attorney General Barr did fuck all about that, by the way, fat boy. For all the good things you have done, you dropped the ball hard. Maybe you needed better glasses. I don't know, Barr, but wherever the fuck you were, you weren't where you needed to be. Local law enforcement had been defunded, demoralized, and handicapped by the local district attorneys. Okay? Because in Portland and in that county and in that region, the leftist DAs were refusing to prosecute. These cops would go in, they would arrest them, they would take them in, they'd be released on their own recognizance hours later and be right back throwing firebombs at cops, assaulting cops within the hour. It's demoralizing to the local police force. So what finally happened? Trump found his spine, let his balls drop, and he said, you know what? I'm going to send the feds up there. I'm going to send the federal marshals and the FBI to work with local law enforcement. And that way, when we're working together, if these Antifa maggots fuck up, it'll be federal, and it won't matter what the local DAs have to say about that. Now, on principle, that's a bit of an overreach, all right? It's a backdoor method for doing what, even though I may have felt like it's exactly what needed to be done constitutionally and on principle, it was an overreach. Here's the thing. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer didn't have any problem calling it out as an overreach, okay? The use of federal law enforcement against people that they liked, people that they supported, people that they excused, exonerated, bailed out, enabled, exponentiated for 2 fucking years. When Trump finally said enough and sent the feds in, what did they call? What did they say? What were the words that they used? Come on, guys. You already know this. You watch the media, and you have a longer attention span than the average grazer. What did they say it was? Trump's what? Trump's Gestapo. Trump's Stasi. Right? They kept leaning on that because he took what he felt was a necessary move. And again, while I agree that the move was necessary, constitutionally we were definitely in a weird kind of area as far as overreach of power. But again, that's a debate to have, not an actual action, right? Call them fascists, call them the Gestapo, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and fucking Eric Swalwell, who still sits on the Intelligence Committee in spite of being busted fucking a Chinese spy. And that odd. Again, I digress. When the FBI or any federal law enforcement was being used against people that they like, they are the Gestapo. They are the Stasi. They are the secret police. They are this. They are that. But the minute You have Merrick Garland, and yes, you were absolutely right on Cloward Piven, Mike. Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And Brother James Pearson, if you're there, I would love to have your commentary on this. Southern Poverty Law Center hates them. Well, of course the Southern Poverty Law Center hates them. They're constitutional, and fucking SPLC doesn't like anything that's in line with the Constitution. In any case, now that you have Merrick Garland, they have weaponized the DOJ, not going after people who are firebombing courthouses, right? Not using them to go after people bombing crisis pregnancy centers and setting them on fire, committing arson against crisis pregnancy centers, vandalizing crisis pregnancy centers, assaulting employees of crisis pregnancy centers. You know, that's what a legit DOJ would be doing. No. They've been dispatched against angry parents at school board meetings who are now being investigated as domestic terrorists. And now, with the FBI leadership, and again, we have to draw the distinction, people. Be careful about those broad fucking labels. The last thing you are ever going to hear me say is broad-based condemning the entire fucking FBI, or, brace yourself, broad-based condemning the entire fucking ATF. I believe on a personal level that the ATF is an agency that is unnecessary and has outlived its usefulness, that is way beyond the scope of its mandate, as is the FBI right now. But you have to draw a distinction between the people making the calls, the ones who are in the employ of the deep state, and the ones who are boots on the ground that don't have any fucking choice about it. I'll give you a personal example, and I won't use his name here. Because especially in the current political climate, I don't want to take the chance of this guy getting doxxed and fucking losing his career for simply doing his job. You guys may or may not be familiar with that. Who set up offices? Yeah, again, getting back to federalizing the police. They want to defund all of the local departments, and then they're going to turn the Capitol Police loose. The Capitol Police are literally setting up offices all over the fucking country. If you were there in the District of Columbia, there is a reason why the District of Columbia is not considered a state, why it is specifically separated from the rest of the 50 states in the fucking union. That pit of hell from which the federal government overreaches emanate. They want the Capitol Police to be all over the fucking country. They want the federal police to be handling what local, state, and county jurisdictions should be doing. Why? Because they control the pit bulls. Did you guys ever see the 1950s or 60s animated version of George Orwell's Animal Farm? Right? Take a look. The pigs take the dogs when they're puppies. They were Dobermans, not pit bulls, for the record. But the pigs take the dogs when they're puppies. They pull them off to the side, and then they raise them in secret, and then they turn them loose. When the animals are saying, hey, man, these pigs are a little out of control, they turn the fucking dogs loose. This is the left. The FBI are their pit bulls. Are we tracking? You guys tracking with me here? You still with me? All right, cool. So that's their attack dogs, and they love them now. They love them now that they are raiding the home of a fucking former president. But he did this, and he did that, and he did that. Well, okay, if you've got the goods, but we're 6 years into it now, Sparky. 6 years. 6 years of we've got him now. 6 years. Yep, that's right. I think you did post that link on a previous sermon, man. And dude, it's a phenomenal piece of work. People should do it. But again, you know, I want him to see that example with the attack dog analogy that I'm working here. 6 years, we've heard it all. Now this is the end. The walls are closing in. He's on his way to prison. He can feel the walls closing in. This is the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. The walls are closing in. He's on his way to prison. He can feel the walls closing in. It's the beginning of the end. He's on his way to prison. We've been hearing that for 6 fucking years now. And what do you have? What do you have? Indictments and convictions against a couple of associates for process crimes that had nothing to do with collusion or obstruction or malfeasance or any of those fucking things. It's absolutely ridiculous. Short memories. I remember when Hillary called the investigation into Whitewater a witch hunt. No, and beyond a witch hunt, Neil, what was it? It was the vast what? Come on, you know this one. The vast right-wing conspiracy. And here we are again. They are in control, hopefully not for very long. But that's where we're at, and they suddenly adore federal law enforcement. They adore the FBI. They adore the CIA. They adore all of these agencies that are coming forward, and they're totally willing to forget. And this is the thing: there's no principle here. There's no fucking principle with these people. They don't care. They legit don't care. They don't care. There is no desire to get him. When it ends, they need a new enemy to broadcast fear of. There you go. And Brother James has hit the nail on the head with regard to that. I can think of another example on the other end of the spectrum and how short-sighted it was when they did away with him. And I'm thinking about a certain Saudi with a really long fucking beard. Come on. 3 names. We remember him. Osama bin Laden. How useful was he for the Bush administration as a boogeyman? You could justify anything. You could justify the Patriot Act. You could justify spying on American citizens. You could justify cracking down on this and clamping down on that and restricting free speech and every other fucking thing because terrorists were going to get us, and there's the boogeyman Osama bin Laden. And what happened? Obama was exceedingly short-sighted. Now, I'll tell you what I believe. You know the official story. You know the official story about bin Laden. I am of the opinion that they killed bin Laden years prior to that. I believe that he never escaped from fucking Tora Bora, and they kept fucking floating him out there as a boogeyman. Obama was very short-sighted, taking credit for fucking killing Obama, because once he was gone, they didn't have the boogeyman anymore. And Brother James Pearson is dead on about this fucking Trump thing. About once he's gone, they don't have a boogeyman anymore. He has been the steady boogeyman for 6 fucking years. And this is something, and I'm just going to throw this out as an aside, that is one of the reasons why I'm almost hopeful that something will come up that will put Ron DeSantis at the front of the GOP ticket in 2024. Why? Because they have invested 6 years now, and by that point it will be 7 going on 8 years. Trump is bad, Trump is bad, Trump is the boogeyman, Trump is the boogeyman, we gotta get Trump, we gotta get Trump, we gotta get Trump, we gotta get Trump. And if all of a sudden Trump is gone, what do they got? The fuck do they have? They'll have to run on policy. Spoiler alert, they have none. Right? Well, yeah, Russia will be the new boogeyman, and regardless, whoever comes along after Trump, they're just gonna call him Trump 2.0. But it's going to be a tougher sell. It's going to be a much tougher sell. But yeah, they need him in the public eye as the thing. They don't really want to take him down. Again, like with anything else, like with Big Pharma, they will never support a cure for cancer because the money is in the treatment, right? They will never deliberately take down Orange Man because the fear factor is in him being there. It's in him existing. And they don't want to take the risk. They've already got the DeSantis' racist stories in the wing. Yeah, dude, they're already put... Yet, bro, thank you. For my Orwell fans out there, bravo, Brother Mike. Trump is simply the current Emmanuel Goldstein. Emmanuel Goldstein. And here's the kicker. This is how the media controls the narrative. If you were to bring that up in a public forum, Mike, let's say, Mike, that you were a prominent politician and you were to come out and say Trump is simply the current Emmanuel Goldstein, do you want to know what they would call you? They would call you anti-Semitic. The irony of the Orwellian reference would be completely lost on these motherfuckers. They would go, what is he talking about, Goldstein? Is this guy a rabid anti-Semite, a right-wing neo-Nazi extremist that hates Jews? Fuck, man. There just doesn't seem to be any end to it. Probably because there's not. Yeah, don't forget the mandatory 2 minutes of hate. Bro, we're not far off. But, again, now that, because I've gotten Once again, we've taken that little ride down Tangent Street. Okay, they control the attack dogs. Merrick Garland controls the Department of Justice. Now, Republican Jim Jordan said that he's got over 24 whistleblowers from the FBI that have come in, and they are willing to testify under oath that FBI higher ups deliberately suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, deliberately authorized excesses against angry parents at the school board meetings, deliberately planted shit, did horrible stuff against the Trump administration, enabling the Mar-a-Lago raid, all of these fucking things. I don't doubt any of it. But think about who is in control right now of all of the fucking major institutions. This is the thing that you have to realize. We are in the numerical majority. Perception, propaganda, these are the things that they have on their side. Why? Because they control the prevailing narrative. All major media. Fox, I am not giving you a pass because you are part of that too. Everybody who works at Fox, with the possible exception of Tucker Carlson, bought and paid for controlled opposition. They're not talking about Trump anymore. They're jumping ship. Laura Ingraham, jumping ship. All the major guys, jumping ship. And again, even the ones that aren't jumping ship, they're still beholden to their fucking paymasters. Hannity is supporting all the shit in Ukraine. Right? Find me somebody at Fox besides Tucker Carlson that isn't 100% behind our actions sending American tax money to Ukraine. They don't even have the balls to call out Biden. It would be one of the easiest things that for true conservatives he would be vulnerable on. He's sending, at last count, like $60 billion to the most corrupt country on that fucking continent, right? To continue to fight a losing war that puts us in a possibility of direct nuclear confrontation with the world's only nuclear superpower, only other nuclear superpower. It would be one of the easiest things to fucking rail on Biden for, but Fox isn't doing it. Tucker is. The rest of Fox isn't doing it. OAN, they're taking their jabs. Newsmax is taking their jabs. But they control all of it. They control academia. They control major media. They definitely control big tech. And yes, it is ironic as fuck that here I am using a big tech platform to do what I'm doing, right? This is on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, but I've already gotten kicked from Facebook. I've already gotten kicked from YouTube for one of the videos. I've got a strike against my account for YouTube, and I keep going to bigger and broader platforms that are less fucking susceptible. There's a reason why the replay runs on Rumble, and as soon as I can get the live stream on Rumble, it will go on Rumble. I respect what Bongino and the crew are doing over there for a true free speech platform, but don't kid yourself. This is going the way of the dinosaur. If we make it past the midterms and my optimism with regard to the American electorate is incorrect, they will have no reason, for the sake of consequence, in ramping up their suppression of opposition ideas. And need I remind you, just take a fucking look at that. This is where we're at with these people. Somebody in the administration, you know, they got rid of Psaki for that fucking diversity hire bitch who's trying to do spin control now. She's terrible at her fucking job. But somebody in the White House public relations department had to look at this fucking thing that you're looking at right here. This one, this thing, this. Somebody in the Biden regime, now we know that the cadaver-in-chief doesn't know what planet he's on, but somebody in that fucking regime had to look at these optics and say, yeah, that's a good idea. Nothing sinister about that. Somebody had to examine the text that was rolling off the teleprompter of this corpse trying to fucking read it, listen to him, for all intents and purposes, calling half the fucking country fascists and existential threats to democracy. They had to look at the text of that and say, yeah, fuck it, run with it. This is where we're at, people. I mean, look, don't get blackpilled about it. I've been saying this is where we're at pretty much as long as I've been doing these. When somebody tells you or shows you who the fuck they are, believe them. Believe them. It is not complicated. This is who I am. I'm going to show you who I am. I'm going to demonstrate through my actions who I am. I'm going to spew through my speech who I am. Fucking believe them. Believe them. Still, you got people making excuses. And it is the damnedest fucking thing. But that is the power of image in fucking propaganda. This Mar-a-Lago thing, I'm only bringing up, again, if they have the goods on the man, then by all means, indict, arrest, try, and imprison him. Unlike Hillary supporters, unlike Nancy Pelosi supporters, unlike Democrats across the board, and tyrants and authoritarians, but I repeat myself, I will not exempt Trump from the consequences of any legitimate wrongdoing. I will not try to excuse it. Yes, he made this huge constitutional overreach here, and he stole this, and he raped that, and he murdered this. But it's okay because I'm a Republican. I'm not that fucking guy, bro. Hold him to account, but by God, you had better come up with fucking something. Because at this point, you're even shaking mainstream Democrats off the fence onto the fucking conservative side. Because they recognize tyranny when they see it. This is the power of image. This is the power of propaganda. Getting back to the power of propaganda and getting back to the Ukraine thing about how, remember what Greenwald said, we went over this in the fucking opener, Democratic Party fully united with neocons. And you notice the only time he mentions Biden is in that first fucking line, if Biden wins. Okay? Because he knew, as well as anybody, that Biden would not actually be running the show. If Biden wins, that's going to be the power structure. The Dems united with the neocons, Bush-Cheney operatives. Oh, Bush-Cheney operatives, like Cheney's daughter running the January 6th committee. Couldn't have predicted that. CIA, FBI, NSA, FBI, Department of Justice, involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid. All the intelligence people that are spying on fucking angry parents at school board meetings because they're domestic terrorists. They're going to present Wall Street and Silicon Valley. There's big tech presenting itself as the only protection against fascism. What did the man fucking say? What did he say? It's a war for the soul of the nation, defending us against fascism. And the bottom line, Greenwald fucking called it, and much of the left will continue marching behind it. Keep in mind, Greenwald is a product of the left. Okay? He lost a lot of stroke with leftists when he went against the mulatto messiah and called out the national surveillance state and the fact that under Obama it had not only been maintained but expanded after the Bush years. People don't like hearing it because it's our team in charge now. You're supposed to shut up. Greenwald didn't do that. He's a legit fucking journalist. I disagree with Greenwald vehemently on more things than I could even count. You bring up, I tell you what, you sit me and Greenwald down at a coffee table and bring up fucking Bolsonaro in Brazil, you're going to see a fucking fist fight before it's over with. And after I fucking beat his ass to the fucking ground, I'm going to help him up. I'm going to help him fucking sip his coffee with all his missing teeth, and I'm going to be like, Glenn, I'm really sorry it came to that, bro, because I fucking respect you. I really do. I respect the guy as a journalist, no matter how much I disagree. Again, that is the difference between true critical thinkers, true fucking conservatives, true principled arguments versus the left. The left love you when you're towing the line. The minute you step outside that, you are no longer one of them. If you're black and you're not a leftist, you're not really black. You're an Uncle Tom. If you're a woman and you're a conservative, you have internalized misogyny. If you are a Jew and you don't toe the leftist line, in spite of the fact that, you know, a Republican president put the embassy in fucking Jerusalem, you suddenly become a self-hating Jew. You become any of the names that no one is allowed to call those other people the minute you can come out as a pedophile rapist. And the left will continue to love you so long as you don't come out as a conservative. You think I'm exaggerating? Do a little homework. But again, the left united with the neocons. The left united with the neocons and with the media. Look at the example that we brought up in the opener. That is how it got presented. That is how the massive Ukrainian counteroffensive got presented, right? They almost made it look here, for those of you who are history buffs, they almost tried to make it look like the Battle of the Bulge, right? Take a good look. It's a bulge in the fucking Russian lines that the Ukrainians are they're gonna push through, and they're gonna that's obviously where they were going with it. But they had to get really uptight. Now you can barely see up in the left-hand corner the actual size of the region, because that's not what you're supposed to pay attention to. You're supposed to pay attention to that big fucking penis-shaped spear going through the Russian lines, that massive Ukrainian counterattack, and then we fade back and we realize that little fucking that here, big porn cock, here, Asian dude. Sorry. Bart, man, that was cheap, dude. That was cheap shot. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. That was a fucking cheap shot. But here, big porn cock. Here, average white grazer in the suburbs. I don't know, man. Just roll with it. But again, the framing. It's the size of the fucking frame, dude. It's a great thing about banging midgets. When you put your little cock in their hand, it looks so fucking huge. Anyway, size of the frame. This is the big Ukrainian counterattack. This is what 60 billion of your tax dollars are fucking paying for. And you think, yeah, man, that's cool. They're really sticking it to Putin, until we back that out a little bit and see, oh, wow, they're really not doing much at all. And suddenly that 60 billion seems like a real fucking waste of money, particularly when you take it even further out and see that it's just that little red dot. Just that little red dot. But that's the power when you control the image. This is the image! Powerful Ukrainian counterattack. This is the reality. A drop in the fucking bucket, and 60 billion of your tax dollars are in Zelensky's pocket. And this cocksucker and his trophy wife are having the audacity to say to the UK and in the British press, they came out this week and tried to make the British people feel guilty for counting their pennies when they were asking for aid from the UK. British people shouldn't count their pennies. We're up against it. Bitch, your husband is a billionaire and has mansions on at least 2 separate continents. And because of your bullshit, a fight that you picked after Maidan because of the way that you treated the ethnic Russians of Donbass, now the Brits and all of Europe are looking at having their gas taps cut off. Another thing that the Orange Man warned them about. You remember that? You remember when Now This fucking tried to make him look like an idiot? When he went in front of the German parliament and said, hey, look, dude, you guys are going to be totally dependent for the Russians on energy. It's going to put you in a bad spot. And they laughed at him. CNBC ridiculed him. MSNBC ridiculed him. CNN ridiculed him. And now where are we? A fight that the Ukrainians fucking picked. It's the image. Massive counterattack. Drop in the bucket. 60 billion gone. That's the bottom line. 60 billion gone. The optics. What the fuck was this supposed to project? What the fuck was this supposed to project? Who put this together? Who at the regime thought that drawing on this scene from a movie with that particular context, in this particular lighting and symbolism, with fucking Marines in the back backing him up to show some kind of military strength, who the fuck thought that was a good idea? Somebody. And they weren't asleep at the switch, people. This is the power of image, man. I want you to look at some of the best in the business when it comes to propaganda. Look at this. This is the U.S. in World War II, guys. We remember this one, don't we? Remember this one? World War II, man. Our propaganda from World War II. You remember? How about this one? He volunteered for submarine service. You see this? And we are appealing. Hey, man, volunteer for submarine service. You're going to be on a long, hard object full of semen, but women are going to love you. But it worked, didn't it? All of the most powerful propaganda. It is so fucking basic. Fight! War keeps the peace. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. And again, we're back to Orwell country, aren't we? But you really need to study the masters. Here's some from Mao's China. You look at that, what an idyllic scene. It's almost enough to forget the tens of millions of people who were starving to death and the tens of millions of others who are being executed and fucking tortured in struggle sessions as enemies of the state. But this sort of propaganda, wow, man, it's almost enough to make you forget. Look at this image, man. How fucking powerful is that? How powerful is that? How about this one? You are the front line. See, this is more recent. They reached back into hallowed propaganda antiquity for the images for this one. You are the front line. We can't contain COVID-19 if you aren't limiting infection. And boy, did we buy it. Did we fucking buy it. People, you got to study the masters. You got to study the masters. You really got to get into it. It's a thing for me. It's almost like a hobby. Some people dig pro sports. Some people, everybody's got their thing that they follow. For me, language, storytelling, and images. It's something that has always fucking fascinated me. How you are able with just words to convey a message. And you pray that the people who are most skilled at using those words have your best interest at heart. But never count on that. Think about effective communicators that you remember from history. Think about, and when I say effective communicators, that could be from any arena. Let's go back to the 1980s for a minute. This is going to be kind of a weird sidebar, but indulge me. You guys remember Jimmy Swaggart? I picked Swaggart out in particular because that guy was effective. He was up until he got busted jerking off watching other people bang prostitutes. the old joke back in the 80s was that McDonald's just came out with a new sandwich called the McSwaggart. You watch while somebody else eats it. Anyway, Swaggart was probably the least cheesy of those people. When you look back at it, guys like Robert Tilton, God, what a fucking nut job. Jim Baker and PTL, total fucking nut job. James Kennedy was interesting because he was sedate and really fucking cool. Second or third cut. Well, Dennis, that's because all you Gulf Coast fucking Cajuns are goddamn inbred. That's I'm fucking with you, man. Yeah, Swaggart, man. He's also cousins with Jerry Lee Lewis. But yeah, The revolution will be complete when the language is perfect. Right? Okay. Damn it, Ryan. Okay. 150 dudes go out, 75 couples come back. Yeah, you could say that because you were in the Navy. What else do they say in the Navy? It's not gay if you're underway, right? God damn it, you guys are getting me sidetracked again. Swaggart. Right. Yeah, Copeland. Yeah, you're right. Copeland is a freak boy. All of these fucking cats. Baker. Copeland. Fucking Robert Tilton. Jim. All of these cats. Swaggart was the least cheesy, and he was an effective communicator. That guy had the rock and roll, man. He could tell you a story and he could make you fucking believe it. He was an effective communicator. Barack Obama, he was the really badass rapper that couldn't fucking freestyle, right? He could drop the bars on you. He could make you believe some shit, but he couldn't freestyle. You take away his fucking teleprompter and he's fucking useless. Reagan could fucking wing it. Darth Cheeto could fucking wing it. He goes off message, boom. Teleprompter guys are losing their shit. But you take away Trump's teleprompter, that motherfucker can freestyle for 3 fucking hours without batting an eye. That, to me, is an effective communicator. The strength of effective communication. Being able to take this idea that's here, this premise that is here, and put it out here in a way that other people can assimilate and fucking digest it. You know, Osteen, Tommy, I'm going to take issue with, well, not take issue with you on that, but I'm just make an observation on Osteen. Osteen is an effective communicator. He is a profoundly effective communicator because he knows his audience. He knows his audience. He knows how to get that fucking point across. God wants you to have that massive house. God wants you to have that $100,000 car. God wants you to have all that fucking, you know, and he, boy, if you made him do what his father did and come at you with some serious fucking fire and brimstone, he'd be lost. He'd be lost. But yeah, Osteen is definitely an effective communicator. Yep, still abusing the faith. Absolutely. Definitely abusing the faith. You'll hear no argument from me on that. All of these guys were abusing the faith, as it turns out. But again, the point that I'm making isn't about their adherence to the faith. It's about their strength as communicators. Reagan was an effective communicator. In spite of his flaws, in spite of Iran-Contra, in spite of his constitutional overreaches, he was an effective communicator. Barack Obama, as long as they kept him on the teleprompter, he was an effective communicator. Trump, for all his... Damn it, Ryan! Shit, a good Paul Pot. For all of people's imperfections, their strength as communicators make them effective agents of propaganda. And it's all propaganda across the board. It does not matter whose side, right? The whole point of propaganda is to sell your narrative, is to sell your story while overlooking your flaws. This is something that we see the mass media and big tech doing, and they make it so fucking subtle. If we were on a level playing field with regard to communication, even their best propaganda would not be able to hold up in the face of any fucking scrutiny. And some of their propaganda, some of their communication is very, very good, but it would not hold up if subjected to even the slightest scrutiny on a fair and even level playing field of exchange of ideas, which is why they have to augment it. They have to augment it by deplatforming anyone who disagrees with them. by minimizing, dehumanizing, demonizing anyone who disagrees with them. We legitimately just had a sitting president of the United States, despite the fact that he's a cadaver and he isn't even aware of half the shit pours out of his mouth. Mike, you win. I was waiting. I was hoping somebody was going to bring that up about being a skilled orator. Take a look at some of Godwin's Law and Vote. Sorry. Don't be sorry, man. Somebody had to bring it up. Somebody had to bring it up. Look back at all those. Look back at all the pictures of Hitler. The still shots of him like this and like this. And doing the D.O. blood goblet. Look out! He was coached. He had drama coaches who worked with him on presentation to make him a more effective communicator. The cadaver in chief right now is not an effective communicator. He can barely string a sentence together, even reading off a fucking teleprompter, which means that his handlers, who are responsible for everything else that is coming out of this administration, his handlers, somebody had to put that together and look at the optics of that and think that it was a good fucking idea. It wasn't an oopsie. Don't catch yourself thinking that somebody was asleep at the switch. This was deliberate. They took their lessons from the orators and the communicators and the propaganda ministers of the fucking past, particularly the authoritarian orators and communicators of the past. That's okay. Right. Did you hear? Right, another price of gas is just $3.40 a gallon. Double plus good. That's okay because big tech bumps up anyone who says that Biden's speech was top notch, and that's true. That's true. Meth and Hitler got Italy to join. Hey, man, got to give it to the Nazis. That's what I always tell people, man. When you're talking about trying meth for the first time, like it should be a big enough deterrent to stay away from methamphetamine, to remember that this stuff was developed by Nazis who didn't think that their SS guys were mean enough. That by itself should be a deterrent. But whatever, man. We can't. They fancy themselves an Orwellian light. You're right, Tommy, and you've heard me lament that on sermon after sermon. You've seen that in post after post, that the people who are free and easy about using the words Orwellian clearly haven't read the works, or if they did read the works, didn't see it as a cautionary tale so much as a fucking guidebook. They are Big Brother now, not Biden. Again, unless you hear me specify Biden, just assume that I am talking about Biden's handlers. That man, it's easily the worst case of elder abuse that I've seen since Sharon Osbourne. Jill Biden is a cruel and vicious bitch to continue to subject him to this. And the handlers, they are all fucking complicit. Joe Biden doesn't do a goddamn thing. But the Biden regime, you will hear me refer to the regime because he is literally just a fucking figurehead. They took the step in that speech of trying to come off like Big Brother. They thumped their chest. They looked at the MAGA crowd and anybody else who supported Trump and said, you are the enemy. We are the state. We are in control. If you guys watch Dan Bongino or listen to his podcast or anything, and if you don't, you should. Bongino does good work. I'm late to the party on Dan. A lot of people tried to get me hip to Dan Bongino years ago, and it just didn't resonate with me. But it is not a double standard. It is a hierarchy. And they are thumping their chest and saying we are in control, and you, by extension, are fucking not. We are the state. You are the enemy. And basically challenging the MAGA crowd to do something. They're either setting it up for a false flag or hoping that the MAGA crowd takes the bait and commits some act of violence that they can hang their fucking hat on. I hope, Neil, what they think about anarchists like you is that you're part, as far as they're concerned, you're part of the MAGA crowd. Why? Because you're not one of them. You remember Bush at the height of the junta? You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. That's basically what Biden laid down the other day. That's basically what Biden laid down the other day. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. Because that's how they've chosen to classify us. That's what they think about anarchists like you or anyone else who disagrees with them and doesn't follow their gospel lock, stock, and barrel. I encourage conservatives, do not take the fucking bait. You guys know what my line in the sand is. You guys know what my pivot point is. You've heard me say it time and time again. I've got the highest of hopes for the fucking midterms. That's what I've got my eye on. And yes, they are absolutely going to try to cheat. Yes, they are absolutely going to try to undo the legitimacy of the election while pointing at us and calling us election deniers for doing the same thing and asking the same questions that they forced down our throat with their media mongrels for 4 fucking years after 2016. There will be malfeasance, there will be ballot harvesting, there will be ballot stuffing, there will be no signature checks, but fortunately, because of the light that 2020 threw onto this whole thing, the only results are going to be in states that would have carried for the Democrats anyway, places like Illinois, places like California. Swing states have got too much light on them now. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that we will take back both houses of Congress in the midterms if they are able to pull off their fucking malfeasance to the level that it would require to overcome the legitimate discrepancy in support. In other words, I think that there will be malfeasance, there will be fraud, but that the margin of fraud will not be, and the margin of malfeasance will not be able to overcome the legitimate margin of support that is going to carry Republicans into winning both houses. I firmly believe that. If I am wrong, then our second sermon in November will be an admission, first of all, that I was incorrect, and an admonition that we have entered a whole new level of this fucking conflict. Because they're not relenting. They know they're in a fight. They know they are hanging on desperately. They know that they don't have the support. They know, while the uninformed fawning faithful, while the grazer masses may believe the propaganda and may fall for the ministry of truth and the things that they spew, they know that realistically they don't have the numbers. They know that the true popular support is not with them. They know that no matter how much they excuse it and say, well, we don't show up for rallies, we just show up to vote. They know good and fucking well that there is a reason why Trump shows up and he can pack 20,000 seat arenas and Biden can't fill up a high school gymnasium. There's no enthusiasm. There's no passion. There's no nothing. They know it. It's not going to stop them from doing everything they can to hang on to power. I agree with you, Neil. When they take both houses, they had better goddamn do something with it. The last thing that I want to see is, well, we're not going to sink to their level. We're not going to go for easy impeachment over bullshit premises because we're not going to sink to their level. I hope they crucify the motherfucker. I hope they absolutely crucify the motherfucker. I hope they fucking rail Fauci, strap him to a goddamn locomotive engine, and run him through a fucking Montana winter. Because enough is enough, motherfucker. There's a thing called having the courage of your convictions. You guys remember Muhammad Ali, right? Universally regarded as the greatest. Why? Because he transcended boxing with his fucking politics. He had a courage of conviction. It's why it fucking nauseates me when people try to draw parallels between Colin Kaepernick and fucking Muhammad Ali. Go fuck yourself. Ali lost everything. He lost everything. Lost his boxing license, lost the ability to fight, was kept out of the field of boxing where he was unquestionably the greatest at the time, kept from fighting. Through what should have been the best fucking years of his career, all for doing what? All for standing up to the establishment. That same FBI that the left praises now for raiding Mar-a-Lago is the same FBI that, as a part of COINTELPRO, launched investigations into Muhammad Ali and people close to him, people like Malcolm X. I vehemently disagree with, disregard, and disdain the Nation of Islam. But I will show respect for a man who had the courage of conviction to stand in the face of the American war machine and say, I will not do this. Now, I don't have respect for draft dodgers across the board. But what did Ali do? He said, no, man. He said, I am not running to Canada. I will stand here and fight you right here. I will take my stand and I will suffer the fucking consequences. He did that. Made him a very unpopular man here in the United States at the time. People couldn't wait to see Joe Frazier break his fucking jaw. Kaepernick is a fucking shill. Kaepernick still has his multi-million-dollar endorsement deals. Kaepernick still has the left juggling his fucking balls. Fuck Colin Kaepernick. Does he have the right to say what he says? Absolutely. Absolutely. And any government that took the step to fucking incarcerate him for exercising that right, you're going to have to fucking deal with me. I'll fight you. That's what it is to be principled. Muhammad Ali, he took a legit fucking stand. He lost everything. He lost his home. He lost millions of fucking dollars, much of which was pilfered from him by the very same Fruit of Islam guys that he had fucking trusted. He got it from all sides. He got fucked by NOI, got fucked by the United States government, got fucked with the United States fucking people. Why? Because he took a principled stand. Ali was not a fucking coward. Not in my estimation. Takes a hell of a lot more cowardice to roll over and play dead and do something with which you disagree on a moral level than it does to take a stand and say, no, I will not do this, and I will stand here and I will accept the consequences. I'm not running to Canada. I'm not running to the UK. I'm going to stand right here and I'm going to say, I'm not going to do this. And whatever the consequences are, I'm going to stand here and fucking accept them. That's what it is to stand on principle. There's another fella that had the courage of his convictions. Fella was a brilliant mathematician, a fucking prodigy by all estimates. getting back to some of the things that were done under COINTELPRO and MK Ultra, he was actually, all records indicate, a victim of some of the malfeasance of those fucking experiments. But by all reports, a brilliant mathematician, college professor. The future was literally so bright he had to wear shades. He had a very bright future ahead of him, and he opted to step away from that professorship. He opted to step away from what he saw as encroachments of a system with which he no longer agreed. Encroachments of a society that he could no longer countenance. And so he moved to a little shack in a little town in Montana that nobody had ever fucking heard of. And he wrote a little manifesto. And between the years of 1978 and 1995, he built 3 very important fucking birdhouses. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Ted Kaczynski, better known to most of us as the Unabomber. That's a weird fucking parallel to draw, isn't it? Yeah? Bit of a stretch. But tell me that the man didn't stand on his fucking principles. Tell me that man didn't look in the face of modern mainstream America and say, fuck you. I'm not going to live like that. I'm going to live life on my fucking terms. Huge fucking chasm of difference between the two of them. I'm not trying to equate the two on any fucking level. Believe that. But both had the courage of their convictions. Both stepped outside the mainstream of American society, and both decided to say fuck you to the system in their own fucking way. Ali said, I will use my celebrity to draw attention to a cause with which I disagree, and now that I have your attention, I will suffer the consequences. But he got his message out. Kaczynski, after his 3rd birdhouse bombing, said, I will stop fucking sending these bombs if the mainstream press agrees to publish my manifesto. And they did, in its entirety. Holy fuck. Giving exposure to this guy. And he got his fucking message out. Tommy, you're absolutely right. That was his misstep, was hurting others. He got his fucking message out. Ted Kaczynski's brother turned him in. Ted Kaczynski's brother turned him in, and for his trouble received $1 million from the United States government and an award for courage of conviction. That's a quote, by the way. The Courage of Conviction Award. Chicago Tribune, September 18, 1997. Unabomber suspect's brother hopes he will forgive him. David Kaczynski, 47-year-old social worker. Honored for that act. $1 million and a Courage of Conviction Award from a group called Equinox. Who really had courage of conviction here? Having courage of conviction is is taking a stand on principle no matter what it costs you personally. But that doesn't always mean that there's a moral equivalency, does it? Muhammad Ali lost everything standing on the courage of his convictions. Legitimately lost everything. Remained in the public spotlight, continues to have resonance that transcends his chosen sport to this very fucking day. He will forever be marked by history. Ted Kaczynski had the courage of his convictions, but nearly a half dozen people died and 23 others were injured for the courage of his convictions. But he did go out standing on the strength of his own fucking principles, spending the rest of his life in a supermax prison. He indeed lost everything. The point is this: drawing parallels and making observations about how two figures have a certain thing in common does not put them on an equal moral footing. There's such a thing as having a grudging respect for something with which you disagree. I call it the John Dillinger effect. John Dillinger was a fucking folk hero, because the people at the time saw the system as the enemy, saw the government, saw the banks, saw the federal tax system as their enemy. And when they saw somebody having the balls to jump up and rob a fucking bank and stick it to the FBI and stick it to the banks and stick it to the tax man, they made that motherfucker a hero. There are some circles, and it's malleable on the left, there were some circles that saw Ali as a hero because he was sticking it to the system and sticking it to the army and sticking it to the war effort and sticking it to the FBI and sticking it to the man. There are some circles that then and now saw Ted Kaczynski as a fucking hero, taking a stand against the encroachment of human civilization on nature, taking a stand against consumerism and the mechanization of industrialism tearing the planet apart, and taking a stand against modern civilization in that, Ned Ludd kind of way. Are we foolish enough to draw moral equivalencies between the actions of Muhammad Ali, the actions of John Dillinger, and the actions of fucking Ted Kaczynski? Or are we smart enough to have the discernment to respect certain aspects of all three while being able to disagree with their end result or with their final analysis, or with those of their associates for that matter? We're not that blind, we're not that stupid, and we're not that one-dimensional. At least I pray that we are not. I am not. And I expect that most of you, if you are here, are not. Why am I bringing this up? I bring this up because as of this speech, and with the midterms coming up, And with the Department of Justice being weaponized against large swaths of the American public for the first time in this egregious a fashion since the right was doing it in the 1960s and 70s with COINTELPRO and MK Ultra and all the things that the church committee got to the bottom of. I bring it up because we are approaching a time, a juncture in our history where a lot of us, many of whom just wanted to be left alone, many of whom weren't even particularly political, are going to have to make decisions about what is truly important to them. They are going to have to make decisions that in more peaceful, less polarized times we would not have had to make, that we would have preferred to live our entire lives without having to make such decisions about where we draw lines, about where the hard lines in the sand are, about what our principles may have to be with regard to either rolling over and playing dead for the egregious overreaches of a power structure out of control, or doing things that in our heart of hearts we may find morally reprehensible, because not everyone is inclined to violence, and not everyone is inclined under any premise to take another human life. I bring up that trifecta, Ali, the Unabomber, John Dillinger. I bring that up. I completely agree with you there, Brother James. I bring those three up to draw distinctions. But I bring them all up to point out how deep you're going to have to look within yourself. If these midterms go a certain way, shit could get really ugly really fast. If these midterms don't go a certain way, it could slow it down just barely, and then in 2 years we're going to have to revisit it again. In any case, we are at a juncture in history where the full force and weight of a department laughably called a Justice Department has been weaponized against large swaths of the population, and many of you, probably all of you who are watching this, are on the receiving end of it. If you are anything like me, and I can speak only for myself, I have no intention, never have, never would, of overthrowing a government as conceived by the founders, serving the interest of the United States public, of, by, and for the people. Never would you see me standing on the front lines to overthrow such a thing, nor would I allow such a thing to be spoken of in my presence without verbal and physical confrontation. We're not there anymore, kids. We're not. Thursday of this week, we had a sitting president tell us that we were, for all intents and purposes, the equivalent of Nazis, terrorists, and enemies of the state, for the simple fact that we disagreed with his obviously disastrous policies. We have an attorney general, an authoritarian fuckbag who runs a department laughably referred to as the Justice Department, who has weaponized it not against people out there deliberately making this country a far worse place in terms of real violence. People out there committing murders, people trafficking fentanyl across fucking borders. But instead against parents who have the audacity to say, hey, I don't like what you're teaching our fucking kids. We are the enemies of the state now, people. Completely agree with you, James. Completely agree. Ugly is coming. When, which, and how much? It's in question. Absolutely. And that's where I'm headed with this. They have told us who they are. They have told us what they think of us. They have told us what they intend to do about it. I want you to look at the 3 examples that I gave. There are no moral equivalencies. They are all different places on the fucking spectrum, different places on that compass. But I want you right now to look at where your lines are, how deep you're willing to reach, and what lengths you're willing to take it. And no matter what you decide, and it's a decision that is going to be deeply personal for each of us as individuals, no matter what you decide, I hope and I pray for your sake and everyone else's that when the hour comes that you are tested, that you will have the courage of your convictions, and that you will be willing to do whatever it is that needs to be done. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for showing up Sunday after Sunday and fucking making me feel like less of a lone voice in the wilderness. I appreciate it, man. You guys are amazing. The outpouring of support from me and the wife has been fantastic. We had a couple of good weeks of mutual recovery. She is bouncing back very, very well from her procedure. My hip is healing remarkably fucking well, and I give all of you guys my word, because I'm giving everybody my word, and I expect to be held accountable, that I am following the advice of the doctors. I am not going to let ego fuck me up because I waited too long and in too much pain to get this fucking taken care of to risk it on some stupid bullshit. I'm very, very happy that given the timetable that my 3-month mark, because they say don't put any fucking like load beyond body weight on it until the 3-month mark, that the 3-month mark is going to be just before those midterm elections. So if things do go south, I'm going to be about 90% healed. We're going to find out at the end of this week exactly where Charlie's at and exactly what the prognosis is, but I'm hoping, and we've got a lot of good indicators that we may be past it. So you people of faith out there, throw me some more prayers and keep your fingers crossed, and I certainly fucking appreciate it. Yeah, man. And dude, all of you guys, I see these chats over here on the side, and believe me, man, I wish I had a chance to address and give a separate fucking sermon for every one of these. I really appreciate it, guys. Your feedback and everything. I'm going to do what I normally do here. I'm going to pass around that little digital collection plate, man. If you guys want to throw me some coin, I mean, mostly this is a labor of love, and it will continue to be. I'm just, I'm Dollar Store Alex Jones. As one guy called me, just a crane operator with some opinions, but I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being here. If you could throw me some coin, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Venmo, I'm on Zelle, I'm on Cash App, I'm on every goddamn thing. You guys want to throw me some coin, that would be fantastic. If you cannot, I totally get it. Believe me, we are in a Joe Biden economy with Biden inflation, the whole fucking lot. So I get it. If you guys are a little tight on finances, totally get it. But here's what you can do for me. You guys can spread the word, man. If you got your own fucking social media out there, repost the replay to the sermon on your own fucking page, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever you got. Spread that gospel, man. All my sinner sisters, all my OG Reverend Rangers, my prophets of doom out there. Spread that word, man. Spread the gospel. Give us a thumbs up. Bump us up in the algorithm. Had to do that one for Roman. Let's get this on out there, man. Spread that word. Let them know you got some fat, toothless cripple that comes on every Sunday. Rants and raves for a couple of hours. He might be a like-minded or kindred spirit. Maybe you want to check him out. You guys can spread the word that way. You guys already know, though, man. But when you really fucking do it, you know about the directives. You live by the directives. That's something you're doing not just for me, but for yourselves, guys. For yourselves. Remember the directives. They will try to crush you, man. They will try to bury you in the noise. All this meaningless nonsense they will try to keep. It's like smoke and mirrors and deception. The signal-to-noise ratio is all fucked up, man. You got to be that signal that breaks through the noise. Don't get distracted by the bullshit. Focus on what's important. Be the signal, not the noise. They will try to crush you with the darkness. They will try to beat you down, demoralize you. Every other fucking thing. They will try to fucking crush you and demoralize you with the darkness. They will say that there's no way out. They will try to blackpill you. They will try to make you believe that shit. You have got to be that light, man. You got to be that light that breaks through the darkness. Even on your darkest fucking days, you breathe in through your nose, deep breath, and then out through your mouth. Do you feel that, motherfucker? That is life. And the only thing that the dead know is that it is better to be alive. So you find that light. And when you can't find the light, you got to push even harder to be the light. The light in the fucking darkness. So we know, be the signal in a world full of noise, be the light in a world full of darkness. But most important, the prime directive, the only one that really matters, is that you got to be that strength. You got to be that strength, because they'll try to bury you with weakness. They will make weakness seem tasty for you. Try to draw you in with it, make you like every other grazer, just rolling over and playing dead. You can't be that guy. And strength is on a lot of levels, man. Strength isn't just here. Strength is here. Strength is here. Strength is here. Find your spine. Let your balls drop and go out, chin down, knuckles up. They want to take you down. Make them fucking earn it. Be that strength in a world full of weakness, because without that, none of the rest of it matters. None of it. I appreciate you guys being here, man. Love y'all. Each and every Sunday, we're going to be here. I will keep you guys posted. Appreciate you all. Peace, brothers and sisters. Guys, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Interact. Build that community. Be strong, people. We're going to win this thing. Promise you we're going to win this thing. See you next Sunday. Peace.